미디어 심리학 14주 3차 시간으로 시작하겠습니다. 챕터 14는 정신장애입니다. 조울증, 바이폴러 디스오더는 비정상적이고 일관적으로 올라간 기분인 조증과 저조한 기분인 우울증의 반복으로 특징되는 불안정한 감정 상태입니다. 남성과 여성의 약 1.3%가 발병합니다. 정신장애 중 가장 높은 유전율을 보입니다. 생물학적인 원인, 특정 신경 전달 물질은 아직 밝혀지지 않았습니다. 때론 조울증 에피소드 전에 스트레스를 주는 생활 사건들이 발생합니다. 다음은 조울증을 그림으로 설명한 동영상을 보도록 하겠습니다.
Maybe you've heard the term bipolar used to describe someone who's moody or who has mood swings. But this colloquial use of the term is really different from bipolar disorder. Bipolar disorder, which used to be called manic depression, is a serious mental illness that causes a person to have dramatic shifts in emotions, mood, and energy levels, moving from extreme lows to extreme highs. But these shifts don't happen moment to moment. They usually happen over several days or weeks. There are a few different types of bipolar disorders, but there are some common features. First, the low moods are identical to those in a related disorder, major depressive disorder, also known as unipolar depression. Individuals with this can feel hopeless and discouraged, lack energy and mental focus, and can have physical symptoms like eating and sleeping too much or too little. But along with these lows, the thing that sets bipolar disorders apart from unipolar depression is that individuals can have periods of high moods, which are called manic episodes or hypomanic episodes, depending on their level of severity. In a manic state, people can feel energetic, overly happy or optimistic, even euphoric with really high self esteem. And on the surface, these might seem like really positive characteristics. But when someone's in a full manic episode, these symptoms can reach a dangerous extreme. A person experiencing mania might invest all of their money in a risky business venture, or they might behave recklessly. Individuals might have pressured speech, where they talk constantly at a rapid fire pace, or they might have racing thoughts and might feel wired, as if they don't need sleep. Manic episodes can also include delusions of grandeur, like, for example, they might believe that they're on a personal mission from God, or that they have some supernatural power. And finally, they might make poor decisions without any regard for later consequences. One way to understand these swings is by charting them on a graph. So let's say that the y-axis is mood, with mania and depression being on the far ends of the axis, and the x-axis is time. The average healthy individual might have normal ups and downs throughout their life, and they might even have some pretty serious lows once in a while, maybe after losing a job or moving to a new place and feeling lonely. An individual with unipolar depression, though, might have normal highs, but they'll probably also have some crushing lows that last for a long period of time and might not even have an obvious trigger. Now, for the bipolar disorders, the first one is called bipolar 1. And these are people that have some major lows that last at least 2 weeks, and then some major highs that last at least a week or require hospitalization. That said, untreated manic episodes can last as long as 3 to 6 months. And even though depression is seen in most cases, it's not actually required for a diagnosis. The second one is called bipolar 2, and this is when a person experiences similar lows and has additional highs called hypomania, which are less severe manic episodes than we see in bipolar 1. To qualify for a diagnosis, these hypomanic states need to last for at least 4 days. Once again, though, these symptoms generally last a few weeks to a few months. Alright, and the third one's called cyclothymia, or sometimes cyclothymic disorder. And these people have milder lows as well as milder highs, or hypomania like you see in bipolar 2. And they cycle back and forth between these two over a period lasting at least 2 years. Sometimes people with bipolar disorder can show other, less common symptoms as well. For example, having what are referred to as mixed episodes, experiencing symptoms of both depression and mania at the same time. Another symptom they might have is rapid cycling, which describes a situation where a person has 4 or more episodes of depression or mania within a given year. Like most mental health conditions, the exact underlying cause of bipolar disorder isn't known, and there's no single bipolar gene that's been identified, but it's thought that there are genetic and environmental factors that play a part. For example, one interesting clue is that people with family members who have bipolar disorders are 10 times more likely to have it themselves. Another clue is that some drugs and medications can trigger manic episodes, like selective serotonin reuptake inhibitors, or SSRIs. It's also worth mentioning that people with bipolar disorder often have other disorders like anxiety disorders, substance abuse disorders, ADHD, and personality disorders as well, making diagnosis and treatment a real challenge. Even though there's no cure for bipolar disorder, identifying and treating individuals is really important, since there's a real danger that the person could harm themselves or even commit suicide. One of the oldest treatments is also one of the most effective treatments, and that's lithium salts. Lithium acts as a mood stabilizer, smoothing out the highs and the lows that they experience. That said, it's much better at treating manic rather than depressive episodes. And so individuals who take it often have to take other medications as well, which can be problematic since some antidepressants, like SSRIs, can trigger manic episodes in people that are predisposed to them. Other treatment options include antipsychotics, anticonvulsants, and benzodiazepines. But many of these, including lithium, have side effects that can be severe and lead to non adherence, which can be dangerous for the person. Now, unlike certain disorders like unipolar depression, psychological interventions like talk therapy or cognitive behavioral therapy are not particularly effective in treating the manic episodes of bipolar disorder. Having said that, they can still be very helpful tools to help someone with bipolar disorder in general, especially after a manic episode has ended. They can also help the person handle stressful situations that might otherwise lead to a manic episode, thereby helping to prevent a potential manic episode in the first place. Alright, so super fast recap. Bipolar disorder is a mental disorder characterized by depression, periods of lowered mood, as well as mania, periods of a heightened mood.
정신분열증은 현실에 대한 감각을 잃는 것으로 스키조프리니아라고 합니다. 현실에 대한 왜곡된 지각, 변화된 혹은 무딘 정서, 사고 동기 행동의 장애 등 기본 정신 과정의 심각한 손상으로 특징되는 장애입니다. 망상은 잘못된 믿음 체계로 정상에서 벗어나고 과장되며 비논리적임에도 지속적으로 유지되는 것입니다. 환각은 실제 자극이 없음에도 불구하고 진짜 있는 것처럼 느끼게 하는 지각의 경험입니다. 비조직적인 언어는 하나의 주제에서 관련 없는 다른 주제로 생각이 빠르고 모순되게 전환하는 의사소통상의 심각한 손상입니다. 심각하게 비조직적인 행동은 상황에 매우 부적절하거나 목적 달성에 비효과적인 그리고 특정 운동 이상을 수반하는 행동입니다. 부적 증상은 정서적, 사회적 철회, 무감각, 언어 표현력의 제한, 그리고 다른 정상적 행동, 동기 및 정서의 부재나 부족을 말합니다. 인구의 약 1%에서 발병되며 남성에게서 약간 더 흔합니다. 정신병원에 입원하는 환자의 40%를 차지하는 주요 정신질환입니다. 정신분열증에는 생리적 그리고 심리적 요소가 있습니다. 생물학적 관련성이 높을수록 정신분열증의 일치율이 높아집니다. 태내기와 출산 전후 환경도 영향을 줄 수 있습니다. 도파민 가설은 정신분열증은 도파민의 과도한 활동과 관련되었다는 가설입니다. 신경 전달물질과 관련된 효과와 치료는 아직 정확히 밝혀지지 않았습니다. 신경 영상 연구에서 비정상적인 뇌를 발견했고 두정엽에서 시작해서 뇌의 대부분 영역에서 진행성 조직 손상을 발견했습니다. 극심하게 와해된 가족 환경은 정신분열증의 발병과 회복에 영향을 줄 수 있습니다. 지난 몇십 년간에 걸친 가족 연구는 조현병 환자와 유전적으로 가까운 사람일수록 같은 질병이 발병할 가능성이 커짐을 보여줍니다. 표에서 빨간색으로 표시된 것처럼 한쪽이 조현병인 일란성 쌍둥이는 조현병을 일으킬 확률이 48%이고 양 부모가 모두 조현병인 사람은 조현병을 일으킬 확률이 46%나 됩니다. 유전이 조현병의 강력한 소인이지만 태내기와 출산 전후 환경도 일란성 쌍둥이들과 일치율에 영향을 줍니다. MRI 사진들은 조현병으로 진단된 청소년들에게서 뇌 조직에 손상이 있음을 보여줍니다. 첫 번째 열에 있는 정상적 뇌는 가지치기로 인한 조직 손상이 별로 없습니다. 두 번째 열은 일부 영역에서 손상을 보여줍니다. 이 상태에 있는 환자는 환각이나 기괴한 사고 등의 증상을 경험합니다. 세 번째 열의 5년 후의 사진은 대뇌피질 전반에 상당한 조직 손상을 보여줍니다. 이 시기의 환자는 망상이나 비조직적인 언어와 행동, 사회적 철수와 같은 부적 증상을 보여줍니다. 노벨 경제학상 수상자인 존 내시는 조현병을 앓았는데 뷰티풀 마인드라는 책과 영화에 잘 묘사되어 있습니다. 조현병을 앓는 사람들은 환청과 망상을 경험하며 어떤 것이 실제이며 어떤 것이 마음이 만들어낸 것인지 구별하지 못합니다. 여기서 정신 분야를 그림으로 설명하는 동영상을 보도록 하겠습니다.
Schizo means split, and phrenia in this case refers to the mind. Even though schizophrenia can be interpreted to mean splitting of the mind, it does not refer to a split personality, like some media sources might portray, but rather schizophrenia describes a scattered or fragmented pattern of thinking. Schizophrenia is actually a syndrome, meaning there are all sorts of symptoms that might be associated with it, and different patients might experience different symptoms. Although the symptoms can be broadly categorized into three major areas: positive symptoms, negative symptoms, and cognitive symptoms. Alright, taking a step back, most human symptoms from any illness are extreme versions of a normal physiologic process. For example, everyone has a heartbeat, right? And tachycardia is a fast heartbeat. In the same way, everyone has a normal body temperature, but during a fever, that temperature is higher. In schizophrenia, patients have positive symptoms, which aren't positive in the sense that they're helpful, but positive in the sense that there's some new feature that doesn't have any normal or physiologic counterpart. These are the psychotic symptoms, so delusions, hallucinations, disorganized speech, and disorganized or catatonic behavior, none of which occur physiologically. Delusions are false beliefs that the person might feel very strongly about, so much so that they won't change their mind, even if you give them evidence against it. There are all sorts of different delusions, like, for example, a delusion of control, where somebody thinks that some outside force or person or thing is controlling their actions. They could also be delusions of reference, where someone might think that insignificant remarks are directed at them, like a newscaster is speaking directly to them through the TV. Hallucinations are a second type of positive symptom, and can be any kind of sensation that's not actually there, including visual, but also including auditory sensations, like hearing voices or commands. A third type is disorganized speech, an example being something like a word salad, which seems like just a random jumbling of words or phrases, like pencil, dog, hat, coffee, blue. Disorganized behavior, on the other hand, could be like if they exhibit some bizarre or silly behavior that's out of context and doesn't seem to have much of a purpose, like, for example, wearing multiple layers of jackets on a hot summer day. Also, sometimes their behavior is described as catatonic, which has to do with their movements, posture, and responsiveness. So, like, they might be super resistant to moving or be in an unresponsive stupor. Negative symptoms are like when there's this reduction or removal of normal processes. And this is like a decrease in emotions that they can express, or a loss in interest in things that they once found interesting. One type of negative symptom is called flat affect, where they don't respond with an emotion or reaction that would seem appropriate. Like if they saw something very unexpected, like a small monkey playing in their living room, they might simply sit and watch idly as if nothing was happening. Another type is alogia, or poverty of speech, which is a lack of content in their speech. So like if somebody asks them, "Do you have any children?" they might respond with, "Yes," instead of, "Yeah, one boy and two girls." A third type of negative symptom is avolition, which is this decrease in motivation to complete certain goals. So someone might stay home for long periods of time without trying to reach out to friends or find work. Cognitive symptoms are like not being able to remember things, learn new things, or understand others easily. These symptoms are more subtle though and are more difficult to notice and might only be detected if they have really specific tests performed. An example might be somebody not being able to keep track of several things at once, like a phone number and an address. People with schizophrenia seem to cycle through 3 phases, typically in order. During the prodromal phase, patients might become withdrawn and spend most of their time alone. And a lot of times this seems similar to other mental disorders like depression or anxiety disorders. During the active phase, patients experience more severe symptoms like delusions, hallucinations, disorganized speech, disorganized behavior, or catatonic behavior. Following an active phase, patients often enter into a residual phase, where they might exhibit cognitive symptoms like not being able to concentrate or becoming withdrawn again, as with the prodromal phase. For an official diagnosis of schizophrenia, patients need to be diagnosed with 2 of the following symptoms: delusions, hallucinations, disorganized speech, disorganized behavior, or catatonic behavior, or negative symptoms. And at least one of them has to be either delusions, hallucinations, or disorganized speech. So basically, they couldn't have just disorganized behavior and negative symptoms. Even though some patients have cognitive symptoms as well, they aren't specifically needed for a diagnosis. Also, though, for a diagnosis, signs of these disturbances must be ongoing for at least 6 months, meaning that they're likely in one phase or another for a period of 6 months. But there must be at least 1 month of active phase symptoms. And finally, those symptoms can't be attributable to another condition, like substance abuse. Now that we've diagnosed it, why does it even happen in the first place? What causes schizophrenia? Well, we don't really know, since it seems like the signs and symptoms of schizophrenia are pretty unique to humans, or at least they're hard to imagine or notice in animal models like mice or rats. One clue is that the majority of antipsychotic medication that improves schizophrenia symptoms block the dopamine receptor D2, which reduces dopamine levels in neurons. This suggests that maybe schizophrenia has something to do with increased levels of dopamine. These medications, though, are neither universally nor completely effective, and don't work for everyone with schizophrenia, which adds to the confusion and means there's probably more to it than just the D2 receptors. Interestingly, one of the most effective antipsychotic drugs, clozapine, is a weak D2 antagonist, suggesting that other neurotransmitter systems like norepinephrine, serotonin, and GABA are involved. Twin studies have shown support for a genetic basis as well, even though there haven't been any specific genes conclusively linked to schizophrenia yet. Also, environmental factors like earlier prenatal exposure to infection and certain autoimmune disorders like celiac disease have been linked with schizophrenia. Finally, another important set of clues involves the epidemiology. Schizophrenia seems to happen slightly more in men than in women, with onset in the mid-20s for men, but late 20s for women, and the clinical signs for schizophrenia are often less severe. Some studies suggest this difference might be due to estrogen regulation of dopamine systems. There doesn't, however, seem to be any difference among race. Now, treating schizophrenia can be really tricky, and antipsychotic medications are often used, but it's super important to combine the efforts of several clinicians and health professionals, including professionals in therapy or counseling, medicine, and psychopharmacology. Antipsychotics can be very effective at reducing symptoms, but they often come with a lot of additional considerations to keep in mind, like cost and the potential for unwanted side effects like tolerance, dependence, and withdrawal.
어펜딕스에서는 영화 속에서의 정신분열을 보도록 하겠습니다. 지금까지 시청하신 것으로 이번 차수의 수업이 인정됩니다.
The Carnegie Prize has been split, hence it's all bent.
He's got his sights set on Wheeler Lab, the new military think tank at MIT.
Well, they're only taking one this year.
Well, Hanson's used to being picked first.
Oh, yeah, he's wasted on that.
He should be running for president. Emperor.
There could be a mathematical explanation for how bad your tie is.
You've been in here for 2 days.
You know, Hanson's just published another paper. I can't even find a topic for my doctorate.
Well, on the bright side, you've invented window art.
This is a group playing touch football. This is a cluster of pigeons who are fighting over breadcrumbs. And this here is a woman who was chasing a man who stole her purse.
John, you watched a mugging. That's weird.
John?
Turn it off. Turn off the light.
Why would you do that? Why would you turn the light on?
What is wrong with you?
You have to go to your sister's. And let the car at the back. Make her take Commonwealth, no side streets.
John.
Just stay where it's crowded.
John, I'm not going anywhere.
When you get to your sister's, you wait for me to call you.
No, I'm not going.
Just get your things.
I'm not leaving.
Stop!
Stop it. Please, Alicia. I'll explain when I can. Charles? I didn't mean to get you involved in this. I'm sorry. Charles? The prodigal roommate revealed. Saw my name on the lecture slate. You lying son of a bitch!
Who are you talking to? Tell me who you see.
How do you say Charles Herman in Russian? How do you say it in Russian?
There's no one there, John. There's no one there.
Code Red. Dr. Rosen, Code Red, Observation Room 2. Dr. Rosen, Code Red, Observation Room 2.
John? John?
No.
Hello, I need Dr. Rosen's office, please.
You gotta stop her, John.
You leave her out of this.
Who are you talking to?
It's not her fault.
John.
She'll compromise us again.
No, she won't.
You'll go back to the hospital.
John, answer me!
Countless people will die.
Alicia, please, put the phone down.
I can't let that happen.
Yes. Hello. Hi, I need Dr. Rosen. Is he in?
I'm sorry, John.
No!
You know what you have to do, Nash. She's too great a risk.
Get away!
I didn't mean to hurt you. Finish her.